Hello, welcome to my cake kitchen. I am Gladys, and over here I make simple informative tutorials to help you navigate baking and decorating easily. If you're watching this video, I presume you love cake, and we're back. We made this cake yesterday, and I did promise to bring you along the decorating process. It's a customer cake, sorry. It's a customer cake, so I did promise to bring you along. Let me just check my sound here, just to be sure. Okay. I did promise to bring you along the decorating process. So basically, we are going to trim down this cake, and perhaps if we have time, crumb coat it. There's two of them. There's the 2-tiered cake. So this is the base, which is a 7-inch cake, and then we have the 5-inch cake. I wrapped it in cling film here just so that the cake can set in the fridge without like losing moisture. So I'm going to start by taking off the foil, the cling film, just to release the cake, and there we have it. Now, why do I want to trim my cake? Trimming allows an even surface, gets rid of the crust, but for me, trimming allows me to create a gap within which I can fill the ganache without extending the cake past its original diameter. So a good tip, you need a sharp knife. I have a serrated knife here, but even better, I dipped it in hot water. Part of chilling the cake before trimming is so that the crumb is set, so the cake doesn't shift and slide. It can be awfully difficult if you want to trim a cake and it's shifting and sliding. And trimming is not because you want to cut chunks of the cake off or anything. You just want to trim down. It's almost like you are evening out the surface of the cake, if you like. So I am, as you can see, I'm just going down slightly. And what I am aiming for is the brown bits, essentially. Okay. Put those back in. I'm getting a shorter, sharper knife that I can have a bit more control of. And then I'm sliding this down. Still targeting the brown bits, essentially, just to give. And the gap I'm talking about, as you can see, I'm creating a gap at the base of the cake, and that, when I come to filling and covering the cake up, that will be super helpful. Okay, so I have removed the brown bits. Hi, Dolly. Good afternoon. How are you, darling? I've left that to set, and then with the serrated knot we go back in again, not much, just delicately trying to even the surface of the cake. Essentially, the cake itself has been leveled evenly, so there's not okay. I think my trimming is essentially done now. And we go back, then we clean. There you go. Okay. Okay. This is all trim and clean now. This is how when I see a cake that looks this nice and polished even before you cover it, I'm like, my heart is at peace. Okay, the cake we baked yesterday has all come together. I've been busy this morning in the kitchen. It's been very busy, and I don't know how much time I have here, but I am determined to kind of bring you along the process somehow when I can. And yeah, let's see. Dawn, happy Friday. How is the Friday going for you? Okay, there you go. Now there you are. Now let's, it might seem reasonable to want to clean up the surface, but we have a chocolate one to trim. So I'm going to go put this away and get the chocolate one so we can trim that too. But look at how clean this cake looks. If you go to a wedding or a birthday and then the cake is cut and the slices eventually make it to your table and you don't see crust, browning, oh, that makes me happy. I know there are some times where you cannot help it, but here we are. Danai, you have some decorating to do over there. How is that coming along? Let's put this away and then we'll get the brown, brown chocolate cake. Yeah. Okay, we are back with another one, and this I'm just going to trim the top. Why do I trim cakes before decorating? Good question. Well, first of all, I should say, as always, in cake decorating, there are no strict rules. There are principles to follow, and then you can adapt them to your own circumstance. So I will lead by saying I like to trim my cakes generally for preference, and there are reasons for it. When I say preference, it's because it's not a strict rule that you have to, but if the intention supporting the action yields great results, I will always recommend it. Leading with that, the intention for trimming is because for most cakes, right, even when you bake them shallow, if you look closely at the layers, they are not as evenly structured. For instance, look at this cake. It was baked yesterday. It's the chocolate cake that we made the base for. And then I baked it and I leveled it. So the only leveling we have here is the layers of cake that I've leveled, which is cutting through it. These are 3 layers. On camera, it might seem like it's very straight, but if you're standing here and you look at it, you can see that there are dips on certain sides. It's very minuscule, it's not obvious, and if you're not particular and you're strapped for time, there's really no reason to do anything. You can just cover it, because by the time you crumb coat and cover the cake, you're done. It's sorted, right? But for me, that becomes very important, because when I look at the side of the cake here, there's a dip, and that's not because of leveling, that's because of the way the cake has risen and the crumb and crust of the cake. But when I look here, you can see a little bit of a push out. That is also not pressure. That's because the crumb is very delicate. So when I came to leveling the cake, it cut through some of the crumb here, and then you have this coming out over here. So sometimes when you come to crumb coating the cake, especially if you want just a tiny bit of covering to your cake, because the more cover you pile onto the cake, the more you are able to mask any mistakes that are already existing before you came to covering the cake. So if you remember when I was teaching my ganache masterclass, and then I covered the cake, by the time we lifted the cake, well, it did fall off, but when it fell off and we lifted it, you can see the gap between the cake and ganache is very little. Like, we don't have layers and pile-on of ganache. That's intentional, because the work had been done before we got there. So first of all, I trim my cake because the intention for me is to add as little as covering as possible to the cake without having to add a lot of layers to mask. So the first intention why I trim my cakes is so that I can create the gap, because this is a 5-inch cake. If I don't trim it down to create, like, I can't tell you how big the gap, but it's very small, as you can see here. If I don't trim here, a simple question here is, where does the ganache go then? Because then if I just come to cover it in ganache, what's happening is I am extending the diameter of the cake without even thinking about it. Does that make sense, Dolly? Because if I don't trim this down, and then this gap becomes my guide, this becomes like the space to hold the ganache, so that I have a solid 5-inch cake that is exactly 5 inch if possible, but the 5 inch includes the ganache and the cake itself. So if I don't trim it down, a simple question is, where does the ganache go? Ultimately, if I come to cover it without trimming and creating the gap, I am extending the size of the cake. And one of the key mistakes over there is that is one way you end up with lots of ganache around the cake, because the moment you start extending the cake, as in its diameter, you lose the shape. So you keep adding and adding and adding, and there's no guide. But when you trim it down, the 5-inch card becomes my guide, because the moment I put a scraper across it, it scrapes round and it gives me the perfect round shape. So that is actually, so there's a structural reason for trimming it down. But back to what I was saying about the small bulges and dents. Trimming it down gives me an opportunity to even out the surface of the cake, which will thereby allow me a chance to be able to cover it evenly. The more even your cake is, the better your results for you anyway. So besides creating a gap into which the covering is going to go, it also evens out the cake surface to make for easy covering and better polished results. So that is number 2, which are set in the decorating process. The other reason, which is more preferential for me, is that when you bake a cake, right, depending on how you bake it, because my intention from the start of this cake was to make sure that I don't over bake it, and so the crust is cleaner. So as you can see, we have just a slightly brown crust, which is normal. So considering all things being equal, if I was strapped for time and for some reason I couldn't trim the cake, I would just get on with it, if you like. However, there were days that I would bake my cakes deep pan. So when you're baking deep, sometimes it bakes longer, which means your crusts are browner or darker in color. And for me, that kind of takes away from the professional look of the slice. It matters, at least for me. When you cut into a cake, what you don't want to be looking at least for me, I don't want to be looking at the brown burnt bits of a cake. So more preferentially, this is more my thing. I just like to trim down the cake so that you have a very clean, crisp slice, which, like when you look at a polished cake that is displayed, you want to think when you cut into it, you have a very clean out look to it on the inside. So that is more like a thing I like more than it is part of the decorating process, right? But the real intention is to level out the surface, makes for a cleaner, polished look, also allows for covering of the cake without having to mask any dents, which will also reduce the task of having to pile on a lot of ganache or buttercream. That is really my intention. But with all that said, not all cakes will allow for trimming. For instance, if the size of the cake or the shape of the cake requires it to be perfect, like a football cake, if you go trimming down your football cake, you will lose its shape. So whilst I have all these reasons I have just explained for why I like to trim a cake, I know that sometimes it just doesn't apply and you just have to do with what you can. I hope that answers your question. A few tips here though. When you're trimming your cake, make sure your crust is soft, okay? If you have a hard, crusty cake, ooh, trimming will be hard. I am barely doing anything to the cake, and that is because there's barely like any crust on this cake. I am just trimming it to shape down the unevenness on it instead of the browner crust, because this is a chocolate cake and it's baked really soft and nice. So the knife has been sharpened on a knife sharpener, and then I've dipped it in hot water. So you can see there's hot water to my side here. The cake is so moist. Thank you, good people. Here is a polite reminder. If you're here with us, do not forget to like the video so that it tells YouTube. I think YouTube has kind of gone a bit like funny these days, but hey, we are here still, okay? So if you're here, a good way to support us is to consider liking the video. Just a polite reminder for you to do that if you haven't already. Okay. Okay, that's it. I'm not doing anything else. That it's trimmed. I can see it over here. Dolly is asking a question about taking photos, and okay, Dolly, this is kind of a nuanced answer, so I'm going to give you my best take on it. And hear me when I say taking pictures of cakes is how you advertise yourself, but it's not set in cameras, okay? It's not set in professional cameras. It's set in imagination and presenting your cakes better and thinking outside the box. And I say that because if you go onto my website, I think that is the subject about photography, cake photography is something I have seen online, but it's not covered properly. Like, most of us cake makers are not professional photographers. If you see my picture and it looks polished, it's not professional, okay? Someone who takes photos professionally sets their camera slightly differently to what the ordinary cake maker will do. So don't run off and go buy yourself a professional camera simply because you want to get a polished cake. You will fail. And the reason is, by the time you get through setting up your camera, understanding aperture, depth of field, and f-stop and everything else, you realize that you are better a cake maker than a videographer or a camera person. So here is some fundamental tips for you. And this comes from a place of knowing, because when I started cake making, and I wanted to take photos. I knew I couldn't afford a camera. Do I have professional cameras? Yes, I do now. But when you look at the community posts, do you see my professional shots all the time? They are far and few in between. And let me tell you today, if you go to my community post and you see a professionally shot image, right? That is simply because on the day I was probably overwhelmed by something. So if I'm taking it on a professional shot, it is more because I have my phone recording, as in I am doing a live, or my phone is the one that is doing a top-down shot. And I just don't have the convenience of taking it and taking a photo. But I'll tell you, my entire cake making career, any photo you have seen, more often than not, up to maybe 80% is taken on a phone, okay? And that's because when I started cake making, I knew that, and take it from me today, people buy what they eat, okay, they see. So your cake can be beautiful, but if the background and the place that you're setting up the cake is a little bit unprofessional, and your lighting is dark, and the image just looks like you torted, like you literally fell out of bed and then took a phone camera like an amateur, you're doing yourself a disservice, especially for all that work. But is that good reason for you to run off and buy yourself a professional camera or a background? Not necessarily. If you can afford it, yes. But I will always say, and I've always been consistent on the channel, understand why you are doing something, learn how to do it properly, and then find the tools that will support it. Does that make sense? So when I'm teaching cake making, I will teach you what you can do with a knife before I teach you what to do with a leveler. And even the leveler, I'll teach you what to do with a basic 10-pound leveler before you move on to buying an an agbe, what the name, the fancy one that's about 180 pounds that will make you lose some fingers. The point is, understand what you are doing first, understand the fundamentals and foundations of it. And sometimes it is very easy. The simplest way to do something is the most efficient way you can do it. So do you want to get yourself a background? If you want to and you can afford it, yes. But what is the use of a background when your camera, as in the phone camera you are using, you don't understand the lighting and the settings? Okay, so here's a tip for you. If you want to get a background, you can get one from Amazon. But when I started baking, you know where I picked my background from? I went to, what do you call it? Hobbycraft. And I picked myself a foam pad. The foam pad cost about £3, okay? Because I lived in a small flat. I didn't know where to set up the background. Like by the time, I do have a background, by the way, and I'm not discouraging anyone from getting a background, but I'm giving you like real information about what you should be thinking about. So come to think about it, when you want to get the background, unless it's the one you pull up or the box one, the whole point of a background is to mask something you cannot change. Okay, that's the whole, and then to give you a professional finish. But the background is one of many things that you need to get a professional finish. Do you understand the settings of your camera? Modern day cameras, like the phone I'm using is the Samsung S23 Ultra. This is going back a couple of years now, and Samsung is launching a new one. It's the Ultra 26. Am I rushing out to get that? No. Okay, I'm sticking with my phone. I've downgraded my contract, and until somebody steals this phone of me and fights me to the death of me, I ain't changing it. It's working just fine. What I've done though is that take the time to understand the camera settings, how to kind of put the lighting up when needed, modern day phones work better than your digital camera, your DSLR, like your iPhones and whatever. So take your time. This is a long-winded answer, but I am just answering it as though you are in class with me. So go onto YouTube, get a tutorial on how to take the best pictures on the particular camera you have. Just that simple thing. Like what kind of phone you have. If you have an iPhone, just go on YouTube, Google, find how to take the best photos using, let's say, an iPhone 17. I'm not an iPhone user, so you iPhone people, okay? Spend some time knowing the camera that you're using. when you do, take pictures of things around you at home so that you can get used to the intention. Because taking a photo is not just taking the photo. It's about imagining what you want, having inspiration, and then a setup. After you've done that, so first thing, go and learn how to use your phone and the specific camera that is on it. YouTube is so great a platform that there are people who will even give you the exact settings that they use. And if you like a particular style, go with that one. Secondly, look at your kitchen or wherever you normally take your photos from. Ask yourself, what can I move out of the way so that the background is cleaner? Sometimes you don't need a professional background. All you need is the point of view and also the settings of your phone. If you can set your phone to a blurred background, you don't need a background, because what a background does is mask or close off what you don't want in shot. It does elevate your images, but do you need it? It's neither here nor there. So if you, in terms of understanding photography, if you understand depth of field, which is that the image, which is if I'm photographing this, I can set my phone's camera to take the subject, which is the cake, with my background so blurred, it looks like clouds in the background so that the image stands out, right? So if I can do that on my phone, why would I need a background at all? But back to the subject of when I started making cakes, because I didn't understand all of these and it was very overwhelming for me. You know what I did? I went to Hobbycraft, picked up a foam board, which is £3. The two were going for £2 for £5 or £4 or something. And what I did was I set one over the other like that. So you have one foam board, another foam board, and then I covered it with a white cloth, right? And what the white cloth did, depending on what image I am taking. If I'm taking an image of a small cake, right, where I can center it, because essentially the board sitting like this gave me the opportunity to kind of leave my background, because I lived in a small flat. I couldn't move things out of the way and there was always mess behind me. So that was the option I went for. But eventually, when I could take the photo in a space where I didn't have to do all of that, I just adjusted. So fun fact, go to my website and look at my images. You will see some images have a foam board behind it. And more often than not, I'll tell you, those photos were taken on my phone, not a professional camera. But even the professional camera images that you occasionally see on the community post, you'll see, sometimes I take them in my lounge. It's a table set in my lounge and I position the shot where the background is a window in my lounge. So when I've taken the image, you can see that the background is this. This is what do you call it? What is it called? The cloth you put in. I've kind of missed my words. It has a name. Okay, so it's a lace curtain that hangs on a tension rod, essentially. And because half of the time my kid is running here and there are wires and everything, I can't be asked. I positioned the table. It's a table that my son uses for his homework. I just drag the table to that corner, the angle that literally gives me the window background. And then I take the shot. So if I'm taking it on a professional camera, which is the DSLR, know that maybe it's a nighttime or evening when it's darker, then I can set the lights. But if it's daytime, I'm actually taking the photo from an angle that is overlooking my patio. And the same thing, you're looking at a curtain, lace curtain. So my point is, do you need, that's a long-winded way to say, should you take your photos on a phone camera or a professional camera? Neither here nor there. You know me, I will always sit on the fence, but I will always keep it real with you. Do you need a professional camera? That is obviously the goal. That is the aim. But a professional camera requires time and understanding and using it. So if you haven't got the time to understand your phone, leave the DSLR alone. But it's neither here nor there. That's my simple answer. Right, Auntie Jackie, the chef, thank you. So I think I was also thinking, like, because I've kind of launched the membership now, like I told you, the membership is not targeted. The fun here we are still having, you and I will still be here. There's no gatekeeping, okay? Because the subject of cake will last a lifetime, okay? We will talk about flour, sugar, and everything. So you're not missing out anything here. But I realized that there is room to kind of hand you like tips. So I told you, when the membership is launched, but it's targeted at anyone who is looking to learn about the business of cake making. So we will stay here, we will have fun, but if you make it to the membership over there, which is paid, by the way, that is where you get to see like the blueprint of what I do every day, because essentially I'm handing you detailed, in-depth practices. So I intend to cover the subject of photography there. My time is very limited in what I do, so you're gonna have to wait, but it's based on the way I've answered it. I hope it has given you the value you need. So it's more about clear your background, move stuff around, make sure you have a clean background. If you can't do that and you feel like getting a background is better for you, then yeah. But even so, the background, some of them are very bulky, and when you have to find a place to set it, sometimes it's just impractical. You know, some of these things we get is very impractical. Like I find out that filming, filming is not something I enjoy. I enjoy talking to you. I enjoy being on the camera, okay? If I had a production crew, you will have content from me morning, afternoon, evening, every day. I promise you. Because I can think about cakes without worrying about it. But I'm my own production person. I have to set up the camera. I have to worry. Part of the reason why we do the lives is because I want to cut out the friction. So sometimes you think you want like all these professional things to get a good image, and then you get them and you don't use them because they create friction for you. And the friction is, especially for someone who works a full-time shift. I'm not saying it's impossible, and the point here is not discouraging you. The point here is to give you factual, learned, experienced information so that you can make an informed choice. Because I will tell you what, most of us on social media are so used to seeing the perfect image without the notion of how did this perfection happen. Sometimes it's about taking a very dark image and then putting up your lighting up a little more. And then it looks all pale and white. Something that will annoy a professional photographer. If they looked at it, they'll be like, boy, this photo is just so garish. But we like it because it looks white and nice. Okay? So my point is, you don't need the professional things. Use what you have. Get used to it. Okay? Now I find being on camera easier. You know why? Because I got used to being on a live without all the professional set. Like I talk to you without a microphone. If you see me with a mic, it means there's a camera in my background. There's a DSLR and I'm looking because the sound quality on a DSLR is different. On a live, it's not about the sound. It's more about the experience you are having. Whereas on a DSLR, it sounds really wrong. So if you see me mic'd up, I'm not recording for you. I'm recording the sound on a DSLR. But I got comfortable because I got used to being here with you. And sometimes that's all you need. You need to get used to your space, what you have. Because you know what? That photo you saw, that is a 4-tier cake that looks so beautiful on a background. They live in the countryside and they have a garden that's twice the size of your home, maybe. But I'm just making up stuff, okay? They haven't told you that because they don't come to the internet and tell you their business and their life. They come and make cake. So you look at the cake and it looks so beautiful. Meanwhile, you cannot move homes to take that photo. And you're stuck on that image. Like, I wish. And then you go and buy all the things you don't need. If I tell you, when I move on, you will see the kitchen I work from. And maybe that will be the reality check. Because I never lie to you about the size of my kitchen. What you haven't done is you haven't seen it. Because if you see the size of the kitchen and the things I have had to engineer to be here with you, you will fall over. Remember this part, okay? Oh, Lasso Kid says you deserve your own TV series. Lasso Kid, I know. Thank you. I know. But I don't know if I want to be on TV like that. Okay? Because by the time you make it to big television, there are things you cannot say. There are things you cannot do. So let's make this our own TV show. So when we grow and we can afford a production team, and we don't need like a 10-man or an 80-person production team like Meghan Markle, okay? We need a camera person and an editor. That's all. These are the two core people we need. In terms of like formulating the ideas, you get to dictate what you want to see, okay? And then I show up and make it happen. And then the editor and the camera guy decide on how they tell the story with some tips from our style of communication and experience we have. So let's say, and hiring a cameraman for the day can be a lot of money, but you can almost get into collaborations with people who are on the start of their journey. And if this is going to be a thing, you want to work with somebody who is at the start of their journey, who is passionate and who can bring skill to it. So do I want to be on TV? Maybe dip in and out just for the exposure. But the goal is not to sell my voice to a network. I said it, okay? So if I run off, come and drag me back here and be like, oi, come back here, okay? Because there are things that are important to me. I want to be able to talk to you, okay? I want to talk to you. I want to tell you the things that are important to me, okay? Like when we come here, we talk about Jesus. I don't preach to you, but I tell you what is important to me, okay? Like where my standard and values come from. And you're here because you have a shared feeling in those values. Whether you're Christian or not, we are complex humans. But the moment you make it to network TV, there is a contract that says you can't shout. And I like to shout. Have you not noticed? Okay? I like to shout. So I thank God. I thank fate. And I thank God that I made it to YouTube as an adult, not as a 17-year-old. And I am very clear about my voice and my intention. If I keep going at what I'm doing and I do it well, will it come with some sort of exposure, i.e. fame? To some extent, yes. But that is not why I'm here, okay? I am a cake maker. I love the subject of cake. It's something I enjoy and I'm passionate about, and I want to do it and do it well and inform you, inspire you. And when I'm done, I go to my house, okay? Because I sit in the grass with real people, okay? I sit in my house. I think about my life. I think about the joys I have about my life, and that's it. I don't want to be bothered. Maybe if I was a little bit fame hungry, maybe I would be a little more successful and YouTube won't pay me 40 quid. Don't know, just say. Okay. I don't know. Oh, there's a question here. Barbara says, that sounds great. Professional production team. Yeah. It's a thing. Most YouTubers, as in cake makers, we are just cake makers. We are creatives, and then we just want to find an avenue to get this out to people, okay? And that is where I am. I just feel blessed that outside of just the subject of cakes, there is a bit more depth and things about me that will still make for a good show. If it doesn't make it to a show, we'll still talk about cakes. But I have been developing a few concepts and things that I really, really would love in a show format, but I don't have the time. Like, I'm here with you at least 3 days a week, which is Tuesdays, Wednesday, and Thursday when I can make it. I wasn't here on Wednesday, so I'm making up for it today, right? So we did Tuesday, yesterday, Thursday, and today. And I'm here on an average an hour to an hour and a half, okay? Before I get here, I have to plan the content idea, whilst this doesn't require rigorous planning, because the lives are a representation of my actual day as a cake maker. So this is a customer cake I am making. We baked the cake on the live. But last week when my diary was clear, we decided to create some moldy cakes and then use the scrap cake to create a car cake. I'll show you what the car cake looks like. So the subject of cake, depending on what I'm doing each week, requires a lot of attention behind the scenes, even before I show up here. So it leaves me with just little time to do anything else. Unfortunately, the lives are not there. If you want to succeed on YouTube in terms of being paid, the lives are not. YouTube doesn't pay me to be on a live, but YouTube uses the live as an experience for its audience to build community. So the advantages of being on a live is actually building real connection rather than the long form and shorts. Shorts don't do anything. Short just brings the people who just want to snoop and they disappear because they don't have the attention span. Whereas the lives are more for connection and community building. And I love that because I am a long form tutor more than anything. And if I wanted to create the long form video in the form of the live format we see, that would take me more time than I can give. So I had to sacrifice being paid to give you the connection and to make it convenient and efficient for myself, you know. So YouTube as a business is very technical, okay? And I've told you, with time, I might be able to come back. I keep making promises I can't keep. Let's just leave it. Okay, Dolly is gone because it's her lunchtime and she stopped with us. Thank you, Dolly. We'll see you later. Let's see. Steph is back. She's trying to book. Okay, she said, I'm trying to book. I'm trying the book cake this weekend. Thanks for the tip, Auntie Gladys. Darling, you are always welcome. Let's see. I have both the professional camera and the big backdrop. I don't know why I don't use it. She said it. She's like, the professional camera and the background is time consuming. Yeah, because by the time you set up that big old bulky thing and then you set up your camera, you take the photo, you realize I'm bored. I just need to take the photo and be gone because the customer is on their way anyway. Because half of the time when I'm taking professional shot, the cake looks great, but I look like a crusty tooth. The good thing is that I'm not the subject, okay? If you saw me, sometimes, right, if we were to do a comparison of the cake photo, the professionally shot cake photo, and the cake maker taking the photo, those are night and day photos, hell and heaven photos, okay? Because sometimes I'm literally, like, fact, I'm literally running downstairs in my pajamas, quick image shot, and I'm out. Like, I try not to show up at my door in my pajamas hanging over a cake, but I can quietly take the photo in my pajamas with my hair all dry. True fun fact, that's the part you won't see, okay? Because we're not out here like that. But where's Steph gone? Dolly, go book the cake. And yeah, so sometimes it's just friction, but yeah, I hope that answers the question. Now let's see what else is here. What have I missed? Lasso kit. Lasso is back. Let me wash my hands. People, I was supposed to be working. Remember, I told you I can't do both. I'm either talking to you or I'm doing the cake, and that's it. I can't do both. I try, people. I try. Let's just get this. Let's get this out of the way. Okay, and let's tidy up now. Oh, Steph is here. Steph, how is YouTube coming along and how are you finding it? I kind of think for most of us who just enjoy the cake and the company, how are you finding YouTube? And what are some of the things, like if you come to think about it, I know you are creative and you enjoy the process, but come to think about it, what is something you feel like at this moment in time you are struggling with that you wish you had clarity to? Especially with YouTube specifically, I mean. Hepzibah, I think I remember you. Hello, darling. How are you? Great to have you back. Bless. There you go. There you go. All right, now let's wipe our worktop. All right, so trimming done, and it's time. Oh, so we've trimmed both cakes. So now I've got to go and fix this ganache up so that we can. I will make, because I want to get it reformulated so that we can crumb coat, right? So let's see. Steph says, I agree with what you said about the camera. It's far easier to film with a phone in terms of filming. Post less. Yep. Oh, my people. If there was a way I could. At the moment, my camera is a DSLR, but it's an old version, which still works anyway. Because the thing that we're a society that is obsessed with upgrades, okay? It's not that the one you have, which is like outdated in quotes, is not functional or not used in use. It's because we kind of all caught up with the fancy stuff. So the DSLR I have two, and they're not just functional, they're like professional standard DSLRs that works. But of course, modern updates, they're Canon cameras. The modern upgrades of those cameras have different functionalities, and sometimes we can be caught with a shiny penny. So I'm thinking to myself, if I had a modern day DSLR, which is what my goal is at the moment, I'm more invested in my sound quality and my lenses, if you like. So if you were here, or was it Tuesday, when did we get the post from the postman and you saw me get a new lens? And the lens is to make my talking head far simplistic and easier. So the next goal, I think last time, my last purchase, and I try to invest in these things like periodically. So essentially, as a cake maker, I know that selling cakes is not the thing that I want to do for my lifetime. No, because at some point I'm going to have to be here to make the cake, and if I'm not here, I don't have a business, right? So I've been blessed enough to have like skills I can diversify. So the goal is to diversify that. And so what I do is that I am growing my portfolio of gadgets that will help me set up. So last time you saw me get the lens. Before that, which something that was behind the scene. I got myself a professional boom microphone. It's not something I use at the moment. It's the, if you know anything about sound, it's the Sennheiser MKE 600. It's a very professional type of type microphone, but it's not at the moment. I have no use for the setup I have, but I have to invest it like on the back end, leave it to the side, so that when the day comes and we end up with a production team, we can pull up a microphone and be like, hello. Okay, so all of those are like things I know I'm doing, but at the moment I enjoy showing up on the phone with you and say hello, you know, because it's easier. I have a software over which this transmission is happening, so I get to keep the hard copy and then repurpose it. But if I had to do it on a DSLR, it's just too long, you know. So sometimes modern phones are just like amazing, so don't get discouraged with small beginnings. That's all. Susan says, I actually have content I should be sharing, but most are filmed on a camera. Oh God, tell me about that one. When it's on a camera, you have to go and download the images on a PC. Like, oh, I understand the struggle, sis. Just use the phone. Go on YouTube, find out how to use your particular phone for the best settings. Set it and try. Sometimes it's a trial and error, and then you land at the place where you're like, okay, this works for me. I still don't know all the settings on my Samsung, but it works. Okay, that's all. I say, who has time? Lasso kid, you're telling me people shoot. You know what? The thing is, we kind of think that what we don't know is nobody told us that the expensive tools will not mask your incompetence. I'll say that again for those at the back. Expensive gadgets and tools will not mask your incompetence. If you don't know how to use the thing or don't know how to do the thing, buying the most expensive thing will not help you do the thing. I would know. I'll tell you why. Because when I started YouTube, even before I shot my first video, I was obsessed about all these gadgets I'm talking to you about. That's how I ended up with 2 angled cameras. I thought, what was that going to do? And how many years in, and I've enjoyed just talking to you over here, over a phone. And the cameras are still looking at me over here. When I have to make a long form video, like when I'm in the kitchen, like the other long form content, then yeah, of course, why not? But the most I've enjoyed my experience on YouTube is here. I'm talking to you over a phone, and then I get to keep the hard copy of the content, and I repurpose it in shorts form, and I do the voiceovers and that. Perhaps those who shoot an entire movie on a phone is because they are competent. So they have the skill, they know what to do, so it doesn't matter what gadgets they have. We learned something today. So our cakes are both trimmed down now. Who is that? Ming, is it Ming Susan? Can I say what? I'm not saying nothing, darling. I don't know you. And yet you show up asking me to say something I don't know. I'm sorry, I'm not, okay? I hope you're well though. So look at that. Which would you rather? Like if you cut into a cake and then it's all nice and settled and you're all like gooey and sweet inside, right? We've trimmed it now, okay? So let's go leave it to set. This part of the cake decorating process can be done in advance. You don't have to do this when you really have to cover the cake. If you're a beginner, the most important commodity for you in your cake decorating process is time. Leave yourself enough time, because you can do all of this, wrap the cake in cling foil, put it in a fridge, and then start working on it next day. If you don't have time, you can do it in the morning and then come back to covering it later in the evening. Before we got here, what you didn't see, I filmed though. I filmed it, and I hope I can show you in the process, because my hope is to kind of break that down and make filming much easier for myself as well. So you'll be seeing that. What you didn't see though is that from baking the cake was all wrapped up in cling film, left on the countertop. I didn't refrigerate it. But when morning came and I came and leveled out all the cakes, I left all the cake layers that are now leveled in the fridge to set the crumb. The reason is, if the crumb is not set, because it's a freshly baked cake from yesterday, it's very delicate. We all like a light textured, soft, cotton like a crumb to a cake, right? But for decorating, that's hell. Like, it is breaking apart, you're having crumbs everywhere. It's just too delicate, and that will create problems for you. So your best thing is to put that back in the fridge. So after leveling the cake, you would think you go straight to stacking. No, you put it back in the fridge for up to 40 minutes. I'll give you an hour just so that you have like something to focus on. Within the hour, come tidy your kitchen and do the other task. And then when you get the layers back in an hour, they've set firm. And that's because cake is made up of oils and fats. So once they are chilled, they set firm, and then you stack them. Makes much easier for stacking. And that's the process. So it's stacked, wrapped back up, left in the fridge to set the buttercream, come back, trim it, put it back in the... Like, cake making is the expertise of doing just numbingly thankless, boring things better. Like doing it, like doing this all over, cleaning up, coming back, washing up. It's boring. But you're going to have to master the boring to get to the best part though. That's all. All right. Oh, Hep says, see you soon, darling. Okay, great. Thank you for stopping by with us. Have a good Friday, and we'll see you soon. Mwah. How big is the order, and when is it due? The order is due tomorrow, 3 p.m. And I was just left like daydreaming about it till morning, okay? So my hope is to get it all done tonight, like I have the day, get it done, and then stack in the morning, and then it will be picked up at 3 o'clock. That's my hope. I don't know, like I'm not really like super pedantic about it, because it's going to be a ganache cake. So once it's covered, we crumb coat and we cover it, it's clean, then we move on to stacking. So it's fairly like an easy sort of task, if you like. So yeah, and this too is a 7 of 45. This small one here serves up to about 12 per servings. This one goes up to about, it's about 35 servings, if you like. This one, it goes 35 to 40 servings, because the 6-inch 4 layered will serve up to 24. This is 7-inch 4 layered, and it stands up to about 7 inches in height, which means if you go for the party servings, you are having almost like 30 to 35 servings, depending on how you serve it. So that with this will give you a minimum serving of 45, but there's room for going up to 50 for both, and that's the order numbers here. Okay, Steph was saying something. The only pro I have found with my camera, it allows more storage. I'll travel quite often and carrying it. Okay. Oh, so the advantage to having the camera, I hope it's a small camera though, because especially this modern day cameras, you can have a compact camera. So a camera is not the bad guy here. There are pros to it. And there are still downsides to it. So you kind of pick and choose your battle though, isn't it? I use my phone a lot. So what I do is that, and my phone has, I actually, when I was getting the contract, I got it with the intention of filming. So I think my phone has 32 gigabytes, I think, for the Ultra. So what I did was, when I got the phone, when I film, whatever the images are, I go and then download the entire like footage onto an SD, onto my hard drive. I have a hard drive, so I go and I download it on a hard drive. Yeah, so my phone is constantly like empty, because I would hate to get to the point where it's full and then it alerts you that your phone is full. So I have to do that. Yeah, I'm trying not to, I'm not, you know what, the truth is I'm not stressed about it. It's a two-tiered cake. Like, it's, if a two-tiered cake in the winter, in the summer of 28 degrees, oh God, I'll be sweating my pants off, okay? But a two-tiered cake in the middle of an English spring, it's not the worst thing. Plus, I have time on my hands, because at the moment we need to put these cakes away. I'm going to do that now, because if I stand here and I keep chatting, before we see, it will be 3 o'clock. Okay, people, let's go put this away. Right, so what we are going to do now is try and reformulate our ganache for crumb coating. We've done the ganache series over here. I will extend that, like the coloring of ganache and everything. But if you want to know how we made this ganache, it's already up on the channel, so you can go check it out. And yeah, it should be okay. Right. Next thing, first things first, what are we doing? All right. We need some glass bowls to work with. Okay. We need some glass bowls here. Right. We have some ganache here, some leftover ganache that I used as glue. Now, if you've been here before and you know what I thought about how to make and reformulate ganache, I told you when you make the ganache, leave it at room temperature, like leave it on a countertop until morning. So I am following my own rules, and morning has come and this is what it looks like. So I am going to put that back in the microwave so it will break up a little bit, and then we will whisk it and then use it for crumb coating. Let's see, I count 40 seconds I recommended, but we're here, we'll see. Have a look. Okay, because you don't want to melt this. If you break it down too much, it's going to be hard for you to kind of get the right consistency. So let's see. All right, let's There you go. Okay. Right. So what you want to do is get it. Oh, turns out the microwave is on defrost, so it's barely doing anything. Let's wait and see. Huda, hello there. Hello. How are you? Thanks for stopping by. Let's have a look here. Make sure. Okay, now something has happened. Now you want to get your ganache to look like peanut butter consistency. This is the consistency you're looking for. You need a bit of strength and tension in there, but you want it to be spreadable too. So as you can see, this is the consistency you want. You're not going to use it like this. I'm going to whip it first to break it up, raise the volume and enhance the texture for use. Right. As you can see, I am not, I've kind of portioned parts of the ganache. Okay, there you go. We need only a small bit. Okay. Why do I feel like I'm scared of my own ganache? It's because it's just tacky. Okay. Ganache can be a little bit princessy. So work quick. Got it. Okay, there you go. Now let me wash my hands. Look. And then you have this. I am going to whisk. Okay. We're whisking the ganache for about 40 seconds. That's all. See? That's all we need. Yeah. There is a bit of texture in there because of the leftover ganache I used. So this is just going to be the crumb coat, because for the cake finish, you don't want texture in there. So. let's go. Whew. People, that is one very tired baker. Auntie J, you're telling me constantly washing the hand washing part has to be studied. Yeah, the internet will have you believe that you need gloves. All I say to them people is, I used to be a support worker and a carer, and I've seen the most unhealthiest things being done with gloves. Okay. That's all. Now that we've got this consistency, it's gone back to being like sort of set again because of the weather, because it's very cold, chill here today. So you're going to put that back in the microwave again. It's set on medium high. So let's count 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and kneel. Here we are. Let's have a look. Okay, on medium high, it's come out like you can stare into it, look at it. For me though, I want to do something slightly different. Bear with me. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. So 20 seconds in, and here's what we have. It's a little runny, but it's not melted completely and it's not broken. Okay? That's because I also want to rid of the texture. Now, if this was a final coat, if I was going to use this ganache as a final coat for a cake, what I'll do is I'll get the hand blender, the immersion blender, and kind of whiz it up a bit, because what it does is it helps with emulsification and then gives you a very fine polished look to the ganache. But because I'm crumb coating, I will just skip that part, and then I will do that when I come to doing the final finish. So now that we've got our ganache sorted, it's time to crumb coat our cake. Let's go and get the cakes back. But before that, let's get organized first. Okay, organizing is the thing we need to do. Organizing is the thing we need to do. And I need to be looking at my time because, baby, your girl has to leave at 3. So we have half an hour. So there's just enough time for us to do the crumb coat. Let's boil the kettle of water. We have our... Right, let's get our tools. Right. Okay, you need this, you need that, and you need a scraping tool. Just put the scraping tool to the side, and there we are. Now let's go and bring our cake back. We'll start with the vanilla. Let's go and get the cake back. Now, the essence of a crumb coat is simply to seal in all these crumbs that I have gone and created because I decided to trim my cake. Okay? Now, trimming is not the only way you get crumbs on a cake. You can get crumbs by the handling of the cake and the type of cake it is generally. So, trimming just makes it excess. It leaves more crumbs, but trimming is not the only way crumbs can come on a cake. Do you have to coat a cake simply because there are crumbs on it? Depends. If you're looking for a rustic cake and you don't care about the detail, of course you can skip that. So for the crumb coat, we only need a small layer. Did I say small? Okay. And we're doing that. All I'm doing is running the knife, as in the palette knife, around it and then moving it along. It helps to know that the knife is warm, the blade as is warm and sharp. It helps spread the ganache evenly. This is the road to getting a sharp, clean cake, because when you do the hard work from the start, your results are achievable as you go along. So in terms of a crumb coat, what are we looking at? Done, literally. There you go. Now you want a stainless steel here, but again you want your stainless steel to be warm. Lollipop, how are you? There you go. Now when you crumb coat a cake and you go to scraping it, you can find pockets and air pockets and stuff around it. It's okay. It's not a day to be concerned about how perfect the cake looks. As you can see, I have bits in there because of the use of the leftover ganache. Okay, I'm just covering the parts. We go back in. Okay, there you go. Okay, there you go. Okay. Right, there you go. I'm not going to do anything to the top because the top I can shave it off easily when I come to trimming it and then doing the polish on the cake. So as you can see, the crumb coat is not as perfect as you would think. You can see there are spots, there are like lumps here from the lumpy leftover ganache, but this will all be covered and sealed off completely when I come to covering it in the final coat. So we'll put this cake away to set, and then we will move on to the next one, which is the chocolate cake. Oh, okay. Right, let's rid of this first. Yep, this has come off. See? We have There you go. Now, same as we did before, let's just make sure our ganache is still working for us, because ganache can be a bit precious sometimes. You leave it for a minute and then it goes home to sleep. Okay. Okay. And then again, the knife goes around. Okay. Okay, that's the chocolate cake crumb coated. Not much to do with this. Yes, these cakes are going, Lollipop is asking, are these cakes going to be stacked together? Yes, my love. This is the top tier and the bottom tier is the vanilla one, and they are going to be stacked together. Right, so yep, that is simply crumb coated. So you see what I meant by the trimming. One second, let me wipe it down and I will show you what I mean. By trimming the cakes, as you can see, if you squint, you can see the board here. So what I was trying to explain is that when I trim the cake and you apply the ganache, the scraper uses the board as a guide for the shape of the cake. So it aids a very polished round cake without your cake looking lopsided. But I will be using a ganache disc to kind of help me get some clean lines, because this cake hasn't got much to it. It's going to be a semi-naked cake with just some stencil detail on it and a selection of flowers. So it's sort of plain with just minimal details and then yellow flowers. Like the stencil detail is silver, and then there's yellow roses and bits added to it. So it's very plain. So my intention is to just make sure it's clean, it's got fine lines. And for a round cake, the best you can do is obviously make sure that the intended shape is just polished, and that's what I am aiming for. So yeah, our cakes are crumb coated, one gone in, and that's done. This will be left to chill completely before I trim the top. I'm not in a rush to do all of that just yet, because I want to keep my workspace organized so that I don't get overwhelmed in the process, because that's important. But otherwise, yeah, that's our cake all done, people. What's the time? It's 2:45. Let me just spend the next 15 minutes tidying up, and then we'll see. I'm not going to be back, I'm not sure. But the good thing is I'm recording. Like, I keep recording these things and I don't even have time to edit them. But I'm recording this, and hopefully in a later video those should be snippet for you to see. I am sure I'm trying to get you a video out this weekend, whatever that looks like. But either way, keep in touch on the community post, engage with the content to help us grow. Always important. And I'll see you on the next one, lovelies. Take care, Auntie J and the rest of you. I'll see you soon. Take care. Mwah.